Hey everyone, welcome back to the Keep Watching podcast, where we decide what to watch so you don't have to. I'm James,
And I'm Sarah.
and today we're going to be talking about The Con. Sarah, you get into any good cons this week?
Did I get into any good cons? No, I didn't get into much
You didn't
because
do a con or get conned this week, is what you're saying.
no, that is correct. I failed at doing a con, but was successful in avoiding being conned. So
You failed
kind
at
of a
doing a
wash, I
con?
guess.
Like you tried
Well,
and you failed, or you just didn't try?
I just didn't try.
Okay.
I didn't do much. I was off from work and just chilling.
I feel like I might have conned you in board game night.
Oh, I guess you did.
Yes, there we go. It didn't work out for me, so the con wasn't even worth it.
I mean, I did come in last, so
I'm
at
pretty
the
sure I
very
came in
least,
last.
you
What are you talking
defeated
about?
me.
I didn't even say
No,
my score. It was so low.
Oh, well, okay. Then
What was your
maybe.
score? Do you remember?
It was like 31.
Oh, you got last place. Damn, that's bad. I conned you real good.
Yeah, you did.
All right, Sarah, what's going on? Are you watching anything good?
I haven't really watched much this week, although the new Lord of the Rings show came out, and I watched the first 2 episodes of that. That was pretty good.
Really?
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
I have not watched it, but that was not the the reviews that were popping up in my world.
Well, I have stopped paying attention to the internet in regards to the
That's
show because
smart.
mostly it's just people being racist, and I'm real sick of listening to it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because you can have like elves and wizards and shit, but you have some black people who's an elf or a hobbit, and the internet loses its shit, and I'm sick of it. So
Oh,
I
really?
enjoyed the
That's
show
dumb.
on my own.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
Should I check it out, Sarah? Or are you gonna bring it up for the podcast?
I don't think I'm gonna bring it up for the podcast because it is. I mean, it's. I don't know what to say about it other than it's very Lord of the Rings. So like, if you're into it, yeah, you're gonna be into it.
I think I burn out on Lord of the Rings, honestly. By like the second or third Hobbit movie, I was like, I can't anymore.
Yeah, they made a few too many of those. It is more like the Fellowship of the Ring and less like the third Hobbit movie. So like nobody's doing crazy Legolas stunts like running up ice that is falling and it's physically impossible. Like it's a bit more reserved than that at the moment.
Okay.
But other than that, I've just been enjoying the fact that we just got past Labor Day. So that means it's officially spooky season. Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yes. As far as I'm concerned, as soon as Labor Day's over, it's almost fall. I'm all about that Halloween time. I'm ready to settle
Oh,
in and pick up on some spooky shows. But I haven't decided what those are going to be yet. Just
okay.
kind of. I'm waiting for the Midnight Club to come out. It's Mike Flanagan's show, and he did Midnight Mass and The Haunting of Hill House and The Haunting of Bly Manor, and those are all fantastic. So if anybody needs a spooky show, those are my recommendations. And this one looks like it might just be Are You Afraid of the Dark for adults, which is a vibe I can get with. So yeah, if anybody has any recommendations for spooky shows that are like a little bit spooky but not too spooky, like nothing gross, not into like slasher stuff, just like a spooky vibe for spooky season, I would love to hear it.
Okay. Leave me out of this. I'm out.
Yeah, I figured spooky season's not your jam.
Well, actually, is The Con a spooky show?
I mean, yeah, there is a certain spookiness to what people are willing to do to other people.
Yeah. I would say I was gonna say this later, but I think if you like binge watch The Con, you're not gonna be in a good mental state after watching.
Oh yeah,
You're just
you're
gonna be
gonna
like,
feel bad. You gotta come back with a Ted Lasso type show to like really balance out your faith in humanity.
yeah, you're just gonna be like, man, I don't trust anybody anymore.
Yeah.
Everybody's out there to get me. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. But other than conning me, what have you been up to this week?
Oh, I've been watching some shows.
Yeah?
Well, a couple. I finally watched another episode of Heart Signal.
Oh, wow,
I
it's
was
been a
like stuck
while.
on episode 8. The problem with Heart Signal is that the episodes are like 90 minutes.
Yeah.
And when you're like, okay, if I'm going to watch a show, I'm going to watch the whole thing. It's hard to like
Mm-hmm.
be like, okay, I have 90 minutes and I'm not going to get distracted.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna sit here and pay attention to these people mildly flirting at each other for a movie's length of time.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, still really good.
Nice. I gotta catch up.
You would think the relationships would settle in, but ninth episode ends, still a little spiciness. And
Okay.
like who I like is changing from episode to episode. So
Nice.
it's a good time. And then I'm watching a new show, Sarah, that I
Oh,
want to talk to you about.
okay.
But it is an anime. I
All
was thinking
right.
about not telling you it was an anime and just telling you the plot.
I mean, you should have done that. That would have been funny.
Maybe.
It's too late now.
I feel like it's better to explain the show as an anime, maybe.
Okay.
But the name of the show, Sarah, you're gonna like this. You're gonna like the title of the show.
Okay.
It's called Rent a Girlfriend.
Oh no. Okay. 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 I mean, I'm still here.
Yeah.
I'll give it a shot. Tell me about it.
So here we go. I'm gonna give. I didn't look up a synopsis of this. I'm giving you my own take on what this show
Mm-hmm.
is.
Okay.
So it's about a 20-year-old college student
Mm-hmm.
whose first girlfriend has just broken up with him after
Okay.
only a month of dating,
Okay.
and he's feeling down, and he
Mm-hmm.
decides to rent a girlfriend for a date. And it's
Okay.
no funny business, Sarah. It's just a strictly professional date.
Like, is that the
It's
official
like,
stance of wherever he rents this woman from? It's no funny
yeah,
business.
I don't like. I assume this doesn't actually exist, but it's just like an app that you can just like have on your phone, and then you just like pick somebody, and then you just go on like it's. Imagine just like going on like a first date with somebody,
Yeah.
but like almost. I guess would it be with like no potential for funny
Yeah.
business.
I have seen like something on Instagram where when you visit Korea, there's a service like Rent an Oppa where you can like get a guide. Like it's basically you're getting a tour guide to take you around the town, but like to the quote unquote couple spots, I guess. So there's
Okay,
something like that, sort of.
okay. I don't know. I assumed it like wasn't a real thing, but whatever. Whether or not. But what happens is that through a series of unfortunate events, he
Hmm.
ends up introducing this rent-a-girlfriend to his family as his real girlfriend.
That doesn't sound like a series of unfortunate events. That sounds like a choice.
Well, you have to watch it to get your opinion on if, if
Okay.
you had to or did not have to.
Mm-hmm.
But what happens is the guy and the girls, both their grandmas, end up being best friends.
So
So
now they're stuck together.
so now they have to spin a web of lies to cover their tracks.
Couldn't they just fake break up real fast? Like, there you go. Done.
Yes, but circumstances.
Okay. Okay.
Super fun anime rom-com.
Okay. This sounds like some silly shenanigans I might be able to get behind.
Yeah, I think it's good.
Okay.
I I basically am like, for whatever the next anime that I'm gonna make you watch, I feel like I'm choosing from a list of rom-com animes.
So there's a chance I might like it. Okay.
But there's so many out there that I like that I haven't decided which one yet. But this is probably on the list of possibilities
Okay.
now.
Fair enough.
And then do you want to talk about our first Twitter poll
Oh yeah.
that we talked about before the podcast? By the time anybody hears us talking about this Twitter poll, it will be 2 weeks after the
Yes,
Twitter poll
yes.
was originally put up. But
Yes.
we don't have a better solution for this yet, so that's fine. But we put a poll up on Twitter for our
Yeah, after the
She-Hulk
She-Hulk.
episode.
Yep.
And
We wanted to know who you thought the better Hulk was.
well, let's get specifically what the question was.
Was that not what the question was?
The
I'm
question
not
was,
looking at it
which
right now.
Hulk has the higher power level?
Oh, I forgot you made me put the power level stuff in there.
Yes. And the two options we put in were Smart Hulk and Jennifer Walters, because the Jennifer Walters Attorney at Law did not fit in
Yeah,
the
I
length
was very
requirement.
sad at Twitter for not letting me.
We didn't want to put
Attorney at
She-Hulk
Law.
as the option, so we put Jennifer Walters. But yeah, results are in, Sarah,
Yeah.
and Smart Hulk has won with
I'm so
67% of the vote.
I was really rooting for She-Hulk Attorney at Law, but sadly.
Are we just pretending that we didn't get more than we only got 3 votes for this poll?
We got 3 votes. That's true, yes.
So I voted for Smart Hulk, you voted for Jennifer Walters, and then one other person, you know who you are out there, because
But we
actually
don't know
we
who
don't know
you
who you
are.
are, but if you listen to this, you know who you are, because
Yep.
only one person did. They voted for Smart Hulk, so that's
This
what
person
happened.
has spoken, and yeah, the weight of their vote is such that they were the decider.
Yep. But we put up the new question for Cobra Kai,
Yes.
and within minutes, it already had like what was it, like 8 votes or something. So
Yeah, something like that.
we're gonna
Yeah.
have a better sample size for Cobra Kai next week.
Yeah, that'll be good.
But are you still watching She-Hulk, Sarah?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
She-Hulk's great. I forgot
Yeah.
to mention I've been keeping up with She-Hulk. Have you been keeping up with She-Hulk?
Yes. Very good. Very good show.
I love this last episode. It was great.
Tie-ins that I didn't expect or even really remember from the
Yep.
MCU. So,
Mhm.
yeah. I am looking forward to the rest of
It's
it.
got Megan the Stallion in it. It's great.
Oh yeah, Megan the Stallion. So good. But that's all I got.
Cool. So are you ready to talk about the con?
Yes. And before I give my breakdown, Sarah,
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to ask you, do you think you are a connable person?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
I mean, we have already established that you conned me this past week.
I mean, it was pretty
just
low
happened.
stakes, but yeah.
Yeah, but there we go. I mean, I do try to and see now. I just feel like I'm asking the internet to con me, but I tend to hope for the best in people, I guess. So like, if you start out on my good side, I'm probably inclined to trust you to a certain extent, you know.
Yeah.
So that puts me at risk right there.
I think if you don't answer yes to that question, then you are like the most susceptible to being conned of anybody.
That's true.
Like
Yeah.
admitting that you are connable is the first step in minimizing your chances of being conned, I think.
That is fair.
And like for me personally, like the biggest con, I don't think like, I'd fall for like a massive con,
Mm-hmm.
but like the biggest con somebody could like pawn me if they just wanted to mess with me would just be like pretend to be like casting for Survivor,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and like make me like fly somewhere to do like an interview and then it's like not real or something.
You're so easily kidnappable.
Yeah. I mean, like, I'd like do some sort of check, I would hope, but my desire to be on Survivor might be so big that I might overlook a few red flags. Because there's like an exact episode of this in the con where like these Hollywood people that were like coming up in the business who were like looking for their big break were like being asked to like fly to Malaysia for like a movie or to like work on a movie, and then when they get there they're just like not greeted by like anybody.
But
it's similar to what I think I'm susceptible to.
See, now I gotta go watch this episode because I need to know what anybody got out of making them fly to Malaysia.
Oh yeah. A pretty wild episode.
Got me intrigued with so little information.
And then I was gonna ask you if you've ever actually been conned before. Nothing big, I hope.
mean, technically, like,
yeah, it depends on what you define a con versus like a lie, like falling for a lie.
yeah, like I mean, definitely, like there was a guy who had a girlfriend that I didn't know about, and that felt like a con.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that counts. Why not?
Yeah. So there we go. That's how I've been conned.
And I mentioned this last week. The first episode of this show, we're going to be talking about the second episode of the con, because the first episode of the show is called the Love Con, where like this guy like
wasn't getting any money out of her, right?
Yeah, he didn't get any money out of her, but he like convinced her that he was like this world famous doctor who would do emergency surgeries for like the Clintons and the Obamas and the Pope and all these like famous people. And then he like convinced her that he like talked to the Pope and the Pope would be like marrying them and like this like absolutely insane things, but like she was so like smitten with him or whatever.
Yeah, and all he really got out of it was just like this relationship, I guess.
Yeah, and he spent a good amount of money on her and like took her on vacations and stuff. So yeah, it was like just like a con for the gain of pleasure, I guess.
But so what about you? Have you been conned?
Well, I was gonna say I've watched the show Lost, so yeah. Many people have watched that show. If you've watched that show, you've been conned. But no, I don't think I've been conned as big as that as your example now. Try to think.
It's okay.
I don't
All
think so.
cons are valid cons, maybe, I guess. Big or small.
I mean, some are worse than others. Okay.
Well, yeah,
What do you get in
definitely.
today's con?
That's
Today's
true.
con doesn't seem so bad until we get to the end. Like, I'm going to warn people, like, this gets a little dark towards the end of this
Yes.
story that we're about to go through.
Mm-hmm.
But we're going to do it.
Yeah.
Here's what the show is that we're talking about. It is an American true crime television series that
Mm-hmm.
premiered on ABC in 2020.
Okay.
And I think it's in the middle of airing season 2 now.
Huh.
I did not look up what day it actually airs. I just like randomly caught it on TV once, and then I've just been watching it on ABC.com. Yeah, so it's on ABC, and the narrator is Whoopi Goldberg, which I think
I
she does
had
a pretty good job
forgotten.
on this.
Yeah, she does a good job. I'd forgotten that you had said that, and then when I sat down to watch it, I was like, "Is this Whoopi Goldberg?" And I was
Yeah.
like, "All right, excellent."
And I'll give the quib here. Here it says the series explores stories of people taken in by claims and promises that proved too good to be true, revealing how the victims were fooled and the cost of their false trust. The series also features interviews with people caught up in the cons, victims, eyewitnesses, law enforcement, and in some cases, the perpetrators themselves. We in this episode, unfortunately, do not get any interviews with the perpetrator,
Yes.
right?
We get some videos of her though, which I have some things to say about.
Oh, okay.
But I'll
Yeah,
wait
we
till
get some like
there.
social media posts
Yeah.
from her that are interesting. But yeah, that's it. Basically, every episode of the show is like its own story, so you don't have to
Mm-hmm.
watch them in order. But yeah, some of the episodes are like more popular things, or at least things that I'd heard of before, but maybe
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know like all the details of them. So it was interesting to see the details for those episodes. One of them was the Varsity Blues college admission scandal, where this one
Yes.
guy was using like coaches and colleges to like get people into schools that like didn't even do the sport for that coach basically,
Mm-hmm.
and he was like
Mm-hmm.
faking test results and stuff. Pretty interesting stuff.
Hmm.
And then
Okay.
another episode was the Fire Festival,
Yes.
which a lot of people have probably watched either like the Netflix or Amazon Prime documentary for that, and probably
Mm-hmm.
know a lot of it already. But I had never seen the details for it until watching the con episode of Firefest. But those were the two that jumped out to me. I think they're early on in the series too, if you do watch them in order.
Okay.
But yeah, any thoughts, Sarah, before we start recapping
Um,
episode 2 of the con?
well, if I can talk about the name of this con, it's
Sure.
called the Eris Con. And the first thing I thought of was not too long ago, Netflix came out with a show called Inventing Anna, which is about a woman who did con a bunch of people by pretending to be an heiress, although a German heiress in that case. And so at first I thought it was going to be about that, but it wasn't. It's a different heiress con.
Oh, that was also like a documentary.
No, that was like dramatization.
Oh, okay.
So
But it was based off a true story to some
yeah,
degree.
based off a true story. Maybe not all the details were exactly 100%. You know how that goes. But yeah, it was pretty good. So if this concept is interesting to you, but you want to watch a dramatic version of it, I would recommend that show, Inventing Anna.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, this Eris Con is like it's really not that much different than like the Nigerian Prince
Yes.
con.
Except she's like in person.
Yeah, it's like if you're getting conned in person by somebody claiming to be a Nigerian prince. It's
Yes.
pretty good. There's actually an episode later in the series about the somebody pretending to be a Saudi prince
Mm.
who ends up being from like Michigan or something.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, let's get into the con. How do we start?
We start with shots of scenic, beautiful Ireland and castles, and Whoopi Goldberg talking about distant lands. And then we see a woman doing an ice bucket challenge.
Oh, that's like right in the beginning.
This is right in the beginning.
Yeah.
And that is Mayor Smith, the subject of this con,
Yes.
or the perpetrator.
The perpetrator.
Of this con. Yes.
But Whoopi Goldberg sets it up as like she has like fled her Irish family for the glitz and glamour
Yes.
of Los Angeles. That she's
Mm-hmm.
this story is going to take place in LA, and they do like kind of a montage of all these interviews that we're going to see later in the show, but they get like the hype going.
Hmm.
One of the interview people says, "Oh, I thought she was like the most interesting woman I've ever met." And this is like if you watch like all these con episodes, like I feel like this line comes up so often where like,
Oh yeah.
oh, that guy was this like so charismatic, and he reminded me of like those Dos Equis commercials where they have like the most interesting man in the world.
So I think the moral of the story already is don't trust interesting people. Hang out with some boring people and you'll be safe from cons. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say like, like if somebody is like 100 times more interesting than anybody you've ever met in your life, it's probably
Yeah.
that could be a red flag, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, people are saying, she was fun and energetic, and yeah, she was an awesome woman.
Yeah, they all had a real good time with her until they didn't.
And then Whoopi Goldberg says, "Or is this all part of a deceptive plan? This is the con," and that's how every episode of the show opens. And then we get the title screen, "The Heiress Con."
And then after that, I believe we are introduced to the target of the con.
Yeah, we're in Los Angeles.
The target of the con is Jonathan Walton. He's a TV producer. And this all started in like May of 2013. And right away, the way we're introduced to him in the story he's about to tell, I am immediately like not a fan of his, but I get over it later
Oh,
because,
really? Okay.
well, he's just like, the way we met was there was a catastrophe at our apartment building and there was a disagreement with a neighboring building and we could not use the pool. And I was like, that catastrophe is
Yeah.
not the appropriate word in this situation, my dude, but okay.
Yeah. It seemed like, yeah, like he was like, probably like, the head of the HOA or something, so it was like his responsibility. So to him it was like a big deal.
But yeah, so he to right this wrong, he started organizing the residents to get the pool access back. And at one of his events for that is where he met Mayor.
And I have Jonathan, you said he's a TV producer. I forgot about that until I rewatched it. But he actually worked on at the time of this story, he's working on season 4 of Shark Tank.
Yes.
I have some things to say about Jonathan, but I think I'm going to save them for the end.
Okay. Okay.
In terms of, how he goes about everything. He's an impressive
Okay.
guy by the end of this, for sure.
Yeah. As much snark as I'm giving him right now for his catastrophe with the pool, he does pull it around in the end. Yeah.
Yeah. So Mayor Smith shows up at this meeting about how to get their pool back. And I assume that she actually lived in this apartment complex.
Yes, I think she did.
Okay. But the way Jonathan describes her is that like immediately, like when she got there, she just started like almost like taking control and was very charismatic and everybody liked her. And she like had some good ideas and all this stuff. Like basically she came out being like the MVP of the meeting and was
Yeah,
very
she had a big
impressive.
personality and she was like trying to help, and so like immediately he liked her.
And then Mary's gonna like take Jonathan out for dinner.
Yeah, him and his partner, they go out for dinner with her, and he's like, it was at a very fancy place and it ended up being like $600 for dinner, and he was about to pay for him and his husband, but she was like, no, I'm gonna pay. And then she did, which I really thought it was gonna immediately be followed with a, oh no, I forgot my credit card, or oh no, some reason to scam him into paying.
Yeah.
But no, she paid from the beginning.
It's the long con, Sarah.
That's true.
What's a couple $100s in the long run?
I mean, she must have been scamming it from somebody else at the time, is probably what was happening.
Yeah. But then Jonathan's going to go on to explain that, these dinners would happen kind of regularly. And like very quickly, like Mare and Jonathan almost become like best friends.
Yes. He refers to her as his best friend a lot over the course of the show, and it seems to move pretty quickly. And I love it. He said like she had all these crazy stories to tell. And one of them was like her grandma taught her how to make and throw Molotov cocktails. And just like, sure, okay.
Yeah. We never find out if that story is true.
Well, I hope not.
I guess it just like can't be, right? Because it's specifically about throwing Molotov cocktails at British soldiers.
Yes.
So
yes.
I think it's just a lie.
Yes.
But it's an interesting lie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then she's also gonna like explain as they get to know each other that she's had a falling out with her family in Ireland. In Ireland,
Hmm.
she talks about, and that's why she moved to L.A. Because Jonathan kind of knew she had like he noticed she had an accent, but he like couldn't pick up on what it was initially. But then once she said she was Irish, he accepted it. I don't know how good this accent was.
Oh, I know how good this accent was. They show video of her talking later, and that's not a Irish accent at all.
Oh,
Like,
okay,
it's a
okay.
very bad, not anything accent. And everyone who believes she was Irish, I question their ability to distinguish
What
accents.
if she was tainted by America and it got thrown off? I don't know. It's probably
Oof.
not something I would question.
Oh, I would
I'd just be like, okay,
100%
you're
question
Irish and you
that.
don't have an accent. That's cool.
Well, it's not that she didn't have an accent. She had a weird, not
Janky.
Irish
Okay.
accent. Like, who even knows where this accent is from? I would have been suspicious. Well, maybe not. She was buying me fancy dinners. Who knows?
And then Jonathan's going to say again, Mare was the most interesting person I've ever met in my life, which up till now seems right. That seems fair.
Yeah.
Would this person be the most interesting person you've ever met in your life, Sarah? I'm
I
trying to
guess
think.
I've met some pretty interesting people, I guess, but I also don't like. I don't know that I'm drawn to this type of interesting though. Like,
Yeah, that's true.
she might be
Gotcha.
too exciting for me.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. But Jonathan's not the only friend that Mare is making very
That's
quickly
true.
in her after moving to LA. We're gonna get introduced to a few friends here. Who's the first friend you have, Sarah? Or did you
Um,
write down all these friends?
I did write down these friends. I'm just trying to figure out the appropriate pronunciation of Michelle, but with an A in the middle.
I think it's
Michelle.
Michelle.
Michelle. Okay, I'm
I
gonna
feel
go
like
with
it's Michelle with
Michelle.
an A.
I apologize if that's incorrect. But she said that, Mare was really fun and you could like do all the stuff that was fun, with her, but also like the stuff you weren't supposed to do, but were
Yeah,
still really fun, like she was that kind of friend.
the good stuff and the bad stuff is what
Yeah.
Michelle said. And Michelle's one of Mare's friends. Oh, and this is when I wrote down the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge right
Yes,
here.
this is when we see it again.
Oh, we
And
see it
this is
again.
when,
Yeah.
yeah, this is where we actually hear her talking afterwards. And I was like, that accent's suspicious.
Yeah. And I think like I assumed they showed it here because Michelle was the one recording Mare doing
Yeah.
the ice bucket challenge. So like, they're close enough friends that
Hmm.
they're doing the ice bucket challenge together. I feel like that's some level of close
Is
friendship.
that a level of closeness? I've never been close enough with someone to do the ice bucket challenge with them. I don't
Yeah, I don't know.
know.
But then the next person I have is someone named Fran, another one of Mare's
Yes.
friends. And Fran talked about how Mare would hold these St. Patrick Day parties that were like
Yes.
that she described as fun.
Yeah, she was like, the first thing you would know about Mare is that she's Irish. And I was like, not if you listen to her talk, but okay.
And she described her as very funny and smart. And she
Hmm.
would treat her friends to like all these gifts, like Lakers tickets and
Yeah.
other expensive things.
She's like, you never had to pay for anything. And she was like, also really well connected and wanted to know like everybody. Or wanted everybody to know she was connected, I guess. Maybe that was what she said.
And then we cut back to Jonathan, and he tells us that Mare works at a luxury travel agency called Pacific Islands.
PacificIslands.com. But again, this is suspicious because like she's really, really rich, right? So why does she have this job? It's not a fancy job, really. I mean, maybe
I
it's a
think
luxury travel agency, but like he tries to say that like she didn't need to work, but she wanted to interact with people all the time. And so, the best way to interact with people is with sales because that's never a nightmare. But sure.
I mean this job ends up being real.
Yes. But I think it should be a red flag that maybe she is not
Maybe.
super
I don't think
rich.
this would red flag me. The way Jonathan explained it made sense for as they have described Mare so far for me.
I
But
guess.
but you're right,
It's
I
like,
guess. I don't know. It wouldn't
I,
red flag me yet.
I don't know. I worked at a movie theater and people are terrible. And
Yeah,
so
but
if
for
I
a
liked talking to
luxury travel
people,
agency though?
I mean, maybe that's different. But like, if you liked talking to people, I don't think that in a sales capacity, that's the fun way to meet new people. But maybe it worked for Mayor. I don't
Yeah.
know.
And then we're gonna cut to Elena,
Who is a
who is
coworker
a coworker at Pacific Islands. And she also describes, Mare was sharp, bright, friendly, and a great salesperson,
and super confident.
super confident.
Yeah.
We're slowly building up who is Mayor Smith.
I mean, according to these people, just like the best,
Yeah,
like
it's
amazing.
amazing. And then we go back to Jonathan, our main target.
He's talking about how she has like the Irish Constitution framed in her
Yeah.
house. And she was like, look down here. This is my great uncle's signature. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, okay.
This was like confused because he didn't say like, okay, she said it was a copy of the Constitution or something like that. Which like it would
Yeah.
have to be a copy of the
Yeah, but he
Constitution.
was like, but it was all like parchmenty or whatever. And it was like,
Yeah.
I mean, it can't be the real one.
I I
But
don't think he
okay.
thought it was the real one. I think
Yeah.
he assumed it was a copy, but it was just like a really good copy. And it was
I just
framed.
wonder if she was almost trying to pass it off as the real one or not. Like, if that was, I don't know.
Yeah, that would be really like you are not respecting your targets at all. I feel like if you're saying that.
Well, she's just real confident,
Yeah, I guess so.
But yeah, that was her way of like proving the fact that she is in fact like Irish royalty or whatever.
Yes. And it's not really like it doesn't really prove it. It's just like, they've been friends for X amount of time now. So at this point, why would she be lying?
Mm-hmm.
So it's believable in the length of time that they've known each other.
Yeah. And she continues to like talk about how her family's really dysfunctional and have kind of tossed her out. And that really resonates with Jonathan because he's gay and his family sucks and they similarly cast him out. So like they bond on that dysfunctional, not great family relationship level.
Yeah. And do you think Jonathan was a calculated target or just like a coincidental target?
Um, well, calculated in that like she knew he lived in the building she lived in, so like that she can assume a certain level of money she could potentially get from him, right? And maybe she saw something in him when she met. Like I feel like everywhere she goes, she's kind of like I don't know, Terminator scanning everyone, trying to figure out their weaknesses and who she might be able to like get close to and get money out of. So
Yeah. That's what I think. I think Mare as a con artist is more of like she like casts a wide net and then
mm-hmm.
she just sees what kind of catches. So I don't think Jonathan was like, someone she researched on
Yeah.
and like knew all his like backstory and all this stuff. Because there's an episode later in this series that's like a younger woman who would like specifically target like older like war veterans
Mm. Okay.
and then like come up with specific backstories for herself that would like resonate with them. Like if
Mm-hmm.
their wife died of like prostate cancer, she would like tell them that she also had prostate cancer to
Oh.
like gain like
Yeah, yeah,
insane
yeah.
amount of sympathy.
Mm-hmm.
And like yeah, so that's like a whole nother level of like specifically targeting an individual. I don't
Yeah,
think that's the
definitely.
case for Jonathan here. I think it's like a
I just think that was an easy
coincidence.
in for yeah.
Yeah, it's like a coincidence that her story resonates with him, but she uses this same con like
On
on multiple
everybody.
people.
Yeah.
So it's just like she uses the con and just sees who falls for it kind of thing instead of changing her con based on the person.
And honestly, like people who don't get along with their like that, like so many people can relate to that, right? Like at least on some level, just like family troubles. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
nobody has the like perfectly nuclear little family where they're not gonna relate to this at all on any level.
Yeah. Uh we'll talk about when we actually get to the execution of the con, we can talk about, what how much would you have to buy in to actually go along
Yeah.
with this. But let's keep moving. So Mare goes on to explain later, even more to Jonathan, that Mare's great uncle has actually died and left a 35 million euro estate to be divided among her cousins.
Yes. So she's supposed to get 5 million euros, but her cousins are all trying to like ruin her chances of getting her share because, they're using the excuse of she's like not close to the family anymore. She doesn't live in Ireland. And so they're like constantly trying to like scam her out of her part of this inheritance.
Yeah. And she goes as far to like show Jonathan texts from like her cousin Finton. And I
Yes.
wrote down the exact text itself that they show on the
Mm-hmm.
show. And it starts with, You blurred word, blurred word.
Yeah, so not a friendly text.
Do you have a guess as to what these blurred words are?
Motherfucker, I think is, or maybe there's something Irish that you would swear at people.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. I was wondering if it was like an Irish swear because the rest of the text is, "You'll never get a bloody farthing. The day you left our family, you left our family's money." So
Yeah.
they use the term farthing, so I thought like, oh, who knows what this curse word is?
But also, like, is farthing an appropriate term? And an Irish person would use? I don't know. Like,
It's believable if you're like a
if you
guy
don't
from
know,
LA.
yeah, probably.
I'd be
Yeah.
like, oh, that must be an Irish thing. It like almost legitimizes it, even if it's not true.
Yeah. I just wonder, like, how accurate her con was.
Yeah, yeah,
Like, not enough to go look it up right now, but, just a passing fancy.
yeah, yeah. So she's like literally showing texts from her family to Jonathan to gain sympathy from him.
Yeah.
And it's very much resonating with Jonathan because
Mhm.
he, I don't maybe not to this, maybe he's gotten texts from his family similar to this with respect to his homosexuality.
Maybe. Or it might just be he's cut off from them entirely and just feels the bad
Yeah.
vibes. But, like, either way, he has a lot of sympathy for her.
Yeah.
And then she shows him an email from her barrister, which he says is what they call lawyers over there, which, yeah, I guess that's true.
Probably true. Yeah. I don't know.
I think it is true, at least in Britain, so probably also similar in Ireland. But yeah, so her lawyer has sent an email saying that there's a clause in her uncle's will that if any of them are convicted of a felony, they would be disinherited. And so Jonathan immediately says to her, oh, well, you should be worried that your cousins are gonna try to set you up to like get you disinherited.
Yeah.
And she's just like, no, that won't be a problem. But like, clearly that's the reason she showed it to him, is to like start a narrative of like, oh no, they're setting me up, like he said exactly what she was hoping he would, think about this.
This is basically like, she's basically casting a wide net where she has like a bunch of fishing poles in the water. And this is like the ultimate, like, she's caught somebody line that she's been trying to get. And Jonathan, even I wrote this down, he refers to them himself and Mare as two cast out souls. So he's like very, very in on this.
Yeah.
And wants to help her and make sure she gets her money that she deserves. But then 2 months later, Jonathan gets a call from a prison, is what I wrote. They might have had another name for it. And it's Mare.
Because she was arrested.
She's like, they set me up. They set me up. You were right, Jonathan.
Exactly,
you were
like
right. Yeah. What's her bail? Her bail is like 4,200, I think. Oh, this is where when she's like, oh, they set me up. They like go to commercial. I wrote down like when they go to commercials on this show to set up. They do keep like the suspense going.
Oh yeah, definitely
on this show pretty well.
But yeah, she says that her family has framed her for stealing $200,000 from her employer, PacificIslands.com. And at this point, like, Whoopi's narration is just really funny because she's like, Mare's inheritance would go bye-bye.
Yeah.
She has these fun, quippy lines throughout the whole thing.
Yeah. At some point, like, Whoopi is like being told to act as if like she's falling for the con. Even though she's already set up that the fact that like this woman is the con artist and of course you shouldn't trust her. She's like, yeah. She has some lines sometimes that are a little weird like that. But Jonathan's like, I told you they would do this to you. You should have listened to me. Like he's very like, oh, I'm so smart. I knew they were gonna do this.
So smart.
But at that same time, he's also very angry at Mare's family for doing this to her. And he's like, I knew she wasn't a thief. And so there's no way she would be in prison for doing this.
And when he bails her out, she actually pays him back the next day.
Yeah.
Which is like impressive. I thought at this point is where the stop paying him back would start, but not quite yet.
$4,200 there, chump change. Yeah, so Jonathan is still furious and wants to help Mare. But then here's where it gets spicy, Sarah. We were on a one track story here until this happened. Next thing you know,
yeah,
Mare's new job, now that she isn't working for Pacific Islands, is she's become a psychic.
Yes. which, as close as she was with Jonathan, he never knew that she had the gift.
Yeah. And she does explain, like, or the way Jonathan explains it is like, oh, she comes from like she said she came from a family of psychics, and she was like self-conscious about it because she would always like
Get teased or bullied about it when she was a kid.
so she wouldn't bring it up.
But so you're saying that she's come from a family of Irish royal psychics.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's how they do so well with their money.
I guess.
They just know
But
what's going to happen.
if she was psychic, how did she not know her cousins were going to set her up?
Yeah. And they actually this was like the most like talking we got directly from Mare. It was like some sort of weird like confessional style video of her explaining her psychic gift. Like it was for like a TV segment or something. I couldn't really tell what it was for.
And again, I wrote in all caps, she doesn't have an Irish accent. This is not an Irish accent. It is some garbage nonsense accent. But much like I feel everything else so far with her, she was very successful at being a psychic because, you know, she's got that outgoing personality.
Yeah.
And I mean, the skills you have as a con artist are going to be useful skills in conning people into believing you're a psychic. So really, she probably should have just been doing this the whole time.
Yeah. And there's a future episode of the show that's like dedicated to psychics. You know, it's just the episode is just the con psychics, you know.
If I had a job as a psychic, just like once a week or whenever I'm feeling squirrely, I would just like have somebody sit down and then like start to read their fortune or whatever, and then like act real spooked and be like, no, and send their money back and send them away just to like freak them out, like the beginning of a horror movie. Just to be like, no, some dark, terrible thing is happening. I can't look.
Is that part of a long con or just a trolling?
I was just trolling people to make them feel like they're at the beginning of a horror movie.
Yeah, I feel like if a lot of these people they do that, but then they don't send them away. They sell them stuff to fix their problems.
That's true.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, but that never happens at the beginning of a horror movie. So you gotta like full on kick them out and just be like, no, I have to like stage this room now because of your terrible energy. Goodbye.
There's some legal discussion later in this episode where I'm going to talk about something that happened in the psychic episode.
Okay.
But we'll get to that when we get to that. Yeah, so we cut back to Michelle, Mare's friend. And Mare is actually getting clients, and she's getting her friends to get readings with her. And Michelle describes her sessions with Mare as like, you would just sit down and you wouldn't even have to say anything. Like Mare would just know what was wrong or what you were worried about. And she quickly was able to like encourage Michelle to, I gathered it was like, let her current romantic relationship go.
Yes.
So Michelle thought Mare as a psychic was very helpful, and and went on to like recommend Mare to her friends and her family members, and those friends and family members, she said, like all had multiple sessions with Mare as a psychic. That's
where
pretty
those
crazy.
Connections come into play. You get other people to bring in other people and just scam money off of all of them.
Yeah, but you know that's enough about being a psychic. Let's go to the next the next friend who had an interaction with Mare. We're back to Fran. What did Fran talk about, Sarah?
Fran talked about how Mare had apparently had a daughter, and she had passed away a while ago from cystic fibrosis. So at some point, she started a GoFundMe page for cystic fibrosis research. And she was happy to like donate to it. She posted the link on her socials to get other people to donate to this good cause. She really felt bad for Mare, and like she was touched that she was trying to do, you know, something good with her pain.
And I believe the GoFundMe raised $17,000.
Yeah,
that's good. That's good for cystic fibrosis research.
Sure it is.
But we'll cut back to Jonathan. He says at the end of 2016. I think we're like 2 years in now to their friendship. Mare is actually dating a new guy named Bob.
Yes.
And then we cut to Bob, and it says the boyfriend at the bottom of the screen.
And Bob makes a point to talk about how when he was dating someone, he would usually like have to wait. he'd make sure he'd wait like 6 months or something like that before he introduced them to his kids. But he introduced her to his kids earlier than that because like their connection was really strong or whatever. And he was just talking about how she was super good with his kids and they would have so much fun together and go out and ride dune buggies all the time.
Yeah. And they would pray together. That's what I wrote down.
Yes. Yes. She would pray with his kids.
Yeah, more of the same description. But then we cut back to Jonathan. And then what's happening next, Sarah?
Well, despite having a new boyfriend and a successful psychic career, she still has to worry about that quote unquote frame job her cousins are trying to do on her. And she tells Jonathan that the DA says the case will go away if she pays a $50,000 fine. But oh no, wouldn't you know it, her cousins have managed to get all of her accounts frozen. So this is where we really get into those Nigerian prince BS. So like, she cannot pay this fine now because her accounts are frozen. Whatever will she do?
Is this a thing that happens, Sarah? Would the DA ever be like, you know what, give me money and we'll just throw your case away? Is that even a thing?
I mean, there are like fines for things, but that doesn't necessarily mean the case will go away. Usually you like go through the case, and if you are found guilty, a fine will be part of your sentencing.
Yeah, I don't know.
But I'm not a lawyer.
This is how Jonathan describes it. So,
yeah.
From his perspective, this is what Mayor told him.
Mm-hmm. I would be suspicious.
I would not have thought that. Yeah, this would have been a huge red flag for me because I would not have assumed that this is how like the law works, where you can just pay money and then they just like throw your case away. Yeah.
Well, I do believe that rich people get to do whatever they want in this country, so I would be conflicted. But at this point, I wouldn't be handing her any money. I'd be like, let's talk to your lawyer to see if we can get your funds unfrozen. Like, Yeah.
But Jonathan, he believes her. And but unfortunately, this is also weird to me. Mm-hmm. Well, not the first part, but Jonathan, he didn't have $50,000 lying around in his bank account. But thankfully, and this is where it's like, okay, maybe Jonathan was specifically targeted. Jonathan has a credit score of 840. That's the hell? Good. That's a fucking credit score, sir.
I didn't know that was possible. Like, my credit score is pretty high, but I didn't think you could get that high.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. I thought any credit scored over like 700 is good, but 840, I don't know. I don't even know how you get that.
I mean, I've been trying. Can't quite get there yet.
But I guess when you have 840 in credit score, I guess if you just had multiple credit cards, but basically Jonathan lets Mayor use his credit cards to pay the DA. Which,
how though?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was thinking. This is where I would have. This is where I'd be out. I don't think I'd fall for this step.
Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, I would not have even if I believed her, right, and her accounts are frozen, I would be like, I cannot have $50,000 of debt on this credit card now. No, that's irresponsible. I'll find a different way to help you.
Well, she'll be able to pay you back,
She can't though, because her accounts are frozen. It's gonna be you gotta imagine anything is a long drawn out process, in the legal system. Who knows how long this could take? No, I'm not. Yeah. I'm not falling for it.
But Jonathan says, this was my best friend, my sister. I had no doubts about helping her.
I'm sorry to my brother if he's listening, but I'm not letting him put 50 grand on my cards. It's not happening. I'm sorry.
But okay, I wanted to ask you, Sarah.
Yes.
We've been friends for 10 years.
Uh-huh. Yeah, we have.
I think Jonathan and this, I guess we're only friends for 2 years at the time.
That's true.
Although I think it might have gone up to
4, something like
2
that.
2 to 4, yeah. How much money would you be willing to help me out with?
I mean,
what's the limit on a 10-year friendship?
I don't have a limit. It would be you would have a problem, and I do my best to help you. But
I just need money, and the problem will go away.
Yeah. What I'm saying is, I would give you money. I don't know how much it would be. One day you're gonna have to con me and find out, I guess.
50,000, though. That's too much, you think?
I mean, I'm not gonna it depends on where I am in my life at that moment, like how big my money cushion, like what I have saved up or in stocks or whatever bullshit. Like, I don't know. I mean, why would you need this much money?
Well, now that you mention
are
it.
you murdering a person and got to get out of jail? I'm not. Like, that also depends. Like, have you turned into a terrible person and that's why you need this money? Like, there are variables.
Well, now that you mention
I
it.
don't know. Uh-huh.
I wrote that in my notes, pretend to con Sarah, but I don't actually feel like doing it right now. I was gonna like come up with a whole story.
I mean, I would 100% not believe you if you
Yeah,
asked
because we're
me
talking
for
about
money
it right
on the
now,
podcast.
Also, I mean, Mare is Jonathan's best friend,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm famously not your best friend. Right?
That is not true. This is some bullshit you said. That I was your best friend, but you weren't my best friend. And to that I say, best friend is not a title, it's a tier. There's not a solo person in the position. And
That's just a way of telling me that I'm not your best friend. I get it.
no,
It's
you
fine.
are. You
It's
have.
fine. It's fine. It's fine.
You
It's
have
fine.
best friend. You've entered best friend tier. Okay, it's fine.
It's okay.
I would give you money if you needed it. I just don't know what number that would be. It would depend on how poor I was at the time.
My wife is my real best friend, so I don't need your
Now
best
you
friend
made me say all
status.
that shit, and you just okay, fine. You still have it. Whatever. Deal with it.
All right, back to the story. Would you believe it, Sarah? $50,000. You know, it becomes a little more than $50,000 the longer her accounts are frozen. That's what you were saying.
Yeah.
That's what you were saying. You're wise to this.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you don't have access to your money, you need more than the fine you're trying to bribe the DA with or whatever.
So Jonathan's gonna, cover her expenses for a little while as well. But he's not worried, Her case is over. She's gonna get her inheritance soon. They're gonna be good.
Except then she says that the judge was not happy that she used a credit card to pay her fine. So she has to go to jail for 30 days. But it's not a felony charge, so her inheritance is still safe. I'm like, if they had a problem with you paying a fine with a credit card, they would not have taken your money with a credit card. Like, this is not.
Yeah,
this
it
is not
doesn't
a
make
thing.
any sense. This is where it loses me.
Yeah.
I would have no reason to doubt this woman up until this, like $50,000, and now she's going to jail because she paid with credit cards. Like,
Yeah.
I want to believe I would not get past this point.
Mm-hmm. At this point, you would expect to get your 50 grand back from the DA, because if it's not acceptable as a way to pay a fine, then you should get it back.
They didn't say that she couldn't. They said that they were mad that she did.
Okay, but
Something like that. But even that sounds really weird.
That's not how this works.
Yeah. But Jonathan, good old Jonathan, he still believes her. And he's like, oh, that sucks. That sucks, but at least you're going to still get your inheritance.
I want to know what the credit card charge said. Like, when he got his statement. Yeah. She must have, like, taken it out to cash or something. Like, got a cash advance on a card or something. Like.
But then that would make sense because she would have paid in cash. So.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't,
like,
yeah.
It's suspicious.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Which is easy to say from the point of view of watching this.
We have the God's view. We have the God's view. Yeah. I really don't want to slam any of these people that fall for cons in these shows, because like even the fact that Jonathan is on this show talking about how he was made a fool of is like really impressive and like important.
Yeah.
To get like the fact that this happens to people out there, and as like embarrassing or shameful as it is, like it's important that he's here and telling this story.
Absolutely.
So.
The only thing I will shame any of these people for is that they believe that was an Irish accent. Like, honestly, that's I'll give up on it. But it was a real bad accent, guys. It's just awful.
But yeah, so Mare does go to jail. He's in jail for 30 days. But Jonathan's a good friend. He's going to go visit her in prison.
He's like full on supporting her. Like, he's a real good friend.
Really good friend, yeah.
He's with her while she goes through this ordeal.
Have you ever visited somebody in prison, Sarah?
I have not.
I have not either. Apparently, you can schedule it online. That's pretty cool.
I mean, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I would hope that things are not too horribly difficult for people to visit people in prison.
Yeah. So Jonathan, he goes to schedule a visit online, and he clicks on Mare's profile to schedule a visit, and he's looking at it, and would you believe it, Sarah? Under her charge, it says felony grand theft.
But
Ruh-roh.
won't she get disinherited?
Yeah.
I love that like he's still worried about her at this point. He's not like she lied to me. He's like, oh no, she won't get her money, her terrible relatives. Oh.
Yeah, I wrote down that like he starts to panic a little, but it's like it is like almost not the way he described it. It's like it's not he's panicking for himself immediately. It's like he's panicking for her, and the fact that oh no, it's a felony, she's in trouble. So he rushes to the courthouse, and he asks for the file on her, and it's like a 40-page file.
Do they just give out case files to people who are just like, let me see it? Like I didn't know that was.
I don't know.
Okay.
I guess if you gave them like a good enough reason, which I guess he didn't tell them, like he explained the whole inheritance thing or whatever. But yeah, he basically yada yada and just was like, oh yeah, they gave me the pages.
Yeah.
But it's like a 40-page file, and he's reading through it, and would you believe it? It turns out Mare actually did steal $200,000 from her employer at Pacific Islands.
It wasn't the cousin. It wasn't Finton.
It wasn't Finton. And then he basically, by reading the whole file, he says everything she told him about Pacific Islands was a lie. But Jonathan, no, he's getting there. Thank goodness.
Yeah.
And then we cut to Elena, the coworker.
I love this part. She explains that exactly what happened at PacificIslands.com. She said that Mare was out of the office for a couple days, and a client called in just to check that they had received their payment via PayPal. And she's like, that was a red flag. We don't take PayPal payments.
They don't even have a PayPal account.
Yes, they don't have a PayPal account, but Mare has a PayPal account. And so then like the next day or so, Mare comes back in, and the controller, who I guess is in charge of the finances, calls her in and is like, just really like kindly, it seems. It's just like, we're not sure what's going on with this account or where this money went. Could you help me figure this out? And Mare just stands up, goes to her desk, packs up her personal stuff, and leaves. This is such a baller move.
That is pretty baller, yeah. You're just like, well, I'm caught. I'm not going to say anything, and I'm leaving. Now, clearly this didn't work. Like, she got charged with this crime, anyway.
But she was just like, I am going to just run off into the night.
This is actually, like, almost like a strike against her in terms of, like, her being a good con artist. Like, I don't know.
She didn't have a backup plan or a way
to,
like,
would a good con artist have some way to talk themselves out of this? But she just kind of has, like, her go-to moves, and then this is her go-to move when things go south. She just gets up and walks away.
But, like, she didn't walk far enough away. Like, that sounds like a time where, okay, my con in this area is over. Time to change names and locations. Goodbye. Like, she stuck around and got caught.
Yeah. And that kind of happens later, where it's like, they don't know where she is, but then they just, like, bring her in. She must just not have tried too hard to, like, flee the country or the state or whatever. Mm-hmm. So what was she doing at Pacific Islands? Do you think she was, like, telling the customer, like, oh, the price of this vacation that you've booked is, twice as much as what it's actually worth?
Yeah.
And then she was
some amount, yeah. And then she was having them pay her directly, and then she would probably pay the rest of the appropriate amount of funds to PacificIslands.com.
Okay. Because I was thinking, like, oh, if she just, like, took the money directly and didn't give it to Pacific Islands, like, this would have been found much earlier.
One would hope so. Like, you would just take one client to be like, but what happened to my trip? Like, why couldn't I get on the plane? Or, like...
Or are these vacations so luxurious that somebody booked, like, a $200,000 vacation, and she just, like, was like, oh, just send it to my PayPal, and then she left the company. Like, yeah, just did it once. I don't know. They didn't get into the specifics of how she was doing this.
Yeah.
But then once Jonathan's gathered all the information on this Pacific Island case, he finally says, I've realized that I've been scammed.
Yes. And she had managed to get about $70,000 out of him.
Yeah, he says 70. Now this $70,000 number is going to go up later.
Yeah, and I think like it also goes down later too. Like,
Yeah, and I want to just highlight that for like kind of like the wrap up when we're talking about this thing and
mm-hmm.
talking about Jonathan.
Okay.
I just wanted to put a flag in that. $70 thousand
Yeah, but
dollars. I think that's an important
around
number.
70 grand, yeah.
Yeah,
And he's talking again about how they've been like super close for like 4 years and just basically Jonathan is big sad. You know, he feels terribly
yeah,
betrayed. He doesn't understand how someone could do this to someone. He's having a rough time. It's
yeah.
understandable.
He basically has to go home to his husband and tell him the news, and he's basically just
Yes.
crying in front of his
Mm-hmm.
husband because what else can you do in that
Yeah.
in that scenario when you've been devastated and ashamed so severely?
Mm-hmm.
So can't blame Jonathan for
Yeah.
his feelings here, of course.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a horrible thing to
And this is
happen.
what I wrote down. Yeah, it takes a lot of courage to come on these shows. In
Yeah,
other
definitely.
episodes of the show, like they'll get some people to come in and talk about it, but then one person that felt like they were particularly like dumb and how they got fooled might have like a voiceover, like
Mm.
a voice changer on their voice, and they'll be like in a
Oh, yeah. They
shadow.
don't want anyone to
Yeah,
know.
they're like so ashamed that they want to do the show, but they do not want people to know that they were the ones that got conned like the worst out of anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is when we cut to commercial for the show, building suspense. Jonathan's finally figured it out.
Yes.
And this is the beginning of Jonathan's determination to get his money back, Sarah.
Jonathan is impressive in the second half of this, I gotta say.
Yeah.
He is determined and he goes all out.
Yeah. And what's crazy is like in a lot of these episodes, it's like the way that con artists get caught is kind of like they con somebody so bad that that individual that they conned is just so pissed off that they put like
Mm-hmm.
so much time and effort into figuring out how they got conned and like tracking down the person and like getting law enforcement to actually get involved. Like it's not like like we're gonna get to this later. Like Jonathan takes his case to like the police, and they're like, "Oh, sorry, can't do anything for you."
Yeah, basically, it's not illegal to scam your friends, like, if your friends don't put the effort into, like, laying out everything.
I don't actually know if that's true. So this actually comes up in the psychic episode of the
Mm-hmm.
show where there's this like specific investigator who decided to like make it like his job to specifically help people that have been conned by psychics in particular.
But is that different because that's, like, a business situation? Like,
Maybe, I don't know. I don't know if he was conned by a psychic or he just feels some sort of, maybe somebody in his family was conned by a psychic, and he
mm.
seems to be have it out for psychics basically.
He's now the, like, anti-psychic superhero, just gonna
Yeah,
go around helping everybody.
basically everybody that eventually finds him has already tried to go to the police, and the police have said
Mm-hmm.
this like, "Oh, this isn't illegal, like you gave them
Yeah.
their money." But he immediately tells them like that doesn't make it not illegal. And so he basically, I think he used to be like a former police officer or something, so like he'll take the exact same case that that person have, and he'll go down to the police station and be like, they'll try to say that to him. He's like, no, I know that's not true. I'm a former police officer. Like,
Yeah.
like, you if you lie to somebody and make them give you money and false pretenses, that's illegal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's basically just like you have to do enough of the work that the cops will decide to like do it, or like this
Yeah,
guy know enough about the law to be like, no, come on, do your job.
yeah. It basically comes down to like the cops are busy and they don't want to look into your case until they know like for sure that it's
Yeah.
real, and they just give you this like not true response.
To just blow you off and make you go away. Yeah.
Yeah. There's another episode where the better approach to this would be in another episode, like I think the Department of Justice was getting involved, but the guy,
Mm.
the DOJ was like, I believe you, but like until you give me like, the exact amount of money that has been stolen over time or whatever, like you just like he was like, you if you do more research and come back to me, I'll take your case. But he wasn't like, oh, that's not a crime, like that,
Yeah.
like telling the
Mm.
person it's not a crime when it is potentially a crime, I feel like is pretty terrible.
Yeah, that's a bullshit response.
Yeah. So I liked how the guy at the DOJ handled it better. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so Jonathan, he's full pissed off now.
Mm-hmm. But he still offers to pick her up from jail when she's on her way out. And he decides he's also gonna secretly record her with his phone, and he confronts her about this money. And she's just like, "Oh, what are you talking? No, I didn't really like. I didn't really steal that money. Like, no, you have it wrong. And then eventually she says she'll pay him back, but he already knows, like, that's not going to happen.
He says like, "Oh, the payments, like the $50,000 was fake and not real," and she's like, "It's not true." And then he's like, "I know it's true. Like I looked at the court documents," and she's like,
Hmm.
"Okay," like she doesn't really have a good comeback for this.
Yeah, similar to just like leaving her job. She's just like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, except
You caught
she
me.
does start crying, which Jonathan does not fall for at this
Yes.
point. He like describes her as like, "Oh, she's just a really really good actor."
Hmm. And he's just like, yeah, she does this all the time.
Yeah. I thought this scene was pretty wild because they actually had the actual audio from Jonathan's phone for the
Yeah.
conversation. And what they do in this show is like they never have actual footage for the most part, but they do these
Hmm.
like reenactment
But you
scenes
never
where
see their faces.
yeah, you never see their faces, but they get people that like look like they have the same hair and would wear the same clothes.
Hmm.
So they did one of those, but then had the actual audio for this one.
Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, she's not going to pay him back.
So Jonathan realizes she's not going to pay him back. The cops won't help him. So he's just like, I got to take care of it. And he goes rogue and starts blogging about it. That's his first move, is just clearly she has scammed somebody else. So maybe they'll find me on the internet and we can figure this shit out.
Yeah, this is pretty good. Like if this $50,000 was like really like that devastating to Jonathan financially,
Hmm.
I would probably be this pissed off. What do you think, Sarah?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I'd be
like
this pissed off.
yeah, but he's going like above and beyond here.
Yeah, I don't know that I'd be effective about doing anything about it, but I'd be pissed off.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Would this become like your life vendetta or whatever? It's like I
I
am
mean,
taking this woman
probably. I
down.
do get real salty.
Okay. Whoopi Goldberg describes Jonathan as going full Sherlock Holmes,
Yes, yes.
which he already knows who the criminal is, so it's not like maybe a little too much credit, but yeah,
But yeah, he's got to find whatever proof he can to convince the cops to actually do something about it.
yeah. Did you mention the blog?
Yeah, he started blogging about it, but the first blog he posts is a picture of her with Bob. And
The
he
boyfriend.
doesn't, the boyfriend, yes. And he doesn't know how to contact Bob, and he doesn't know where she's living right now. So he puts an explanation that he's like, I can't find this guy. His name is Bob, but this woman here is definitely scamming him. So if you know him, you need to warn him.
Yeah. And he doesn't actually know for sure that Mare is scamming this guy Bob. He's just
Yeah.
kind of assuming it, right?
Which is probably a safe assumption. Like,
Unless he knows that like she has also told Bob similar things that
mm,
I don't know. It's a little bit of a jump, but if you had a vendetta against somebody, you wouldn't really care.
oh,
if
yeah,
you
absolutely.
if there's like a 50% chance that she's scamming this guy, you're trying to catch her in the act.
And like, if I start dating somebody and somebody they know, like that person has scammed someone, like, even if they're not trying to scam me, I would like to know about it and make that choice if I would like to continue this myself, you know? So, like,
Yeah, that's
he's
true.
doing a good thing.
Jonathan doesn't know Bob, so he doesn't have like feel like responsible for making as like a friend to him.
But just
It's
as like
more of
another
just he
human
hates
person.
Mare. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I think we cut back to Bob talking here.
Yes.
And he's going to explain that, Mare actually wants to move to Newport Beach and get a beachfront house.
Yes. She was looking at a specific house that was $12 million.
Yeah, she has her eyes on a $12 million house. And she like wants Bob to come check out the house with her, and she tells Bob to bring her kids. So her kids are getting like really excited about this awesome house.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so she's like
she sells them on
the
it
kids
so
involved.
hard.
Yeah. And then Mare is going to suggest that Bob put his name on the house with her when she buys it, presumably. The idea.
Yes, because it's like a family tradition from back in Ireland where they put each other's names on each other's houses, which this would sound sketchy to me too.
I think what it was is that like they have some sort of deal worked out with her family that like they use the family money to pay for houses that you're living in is the idea.
I guess.
She's trying to say to him like put your name on the house with me, like you'll get half of the house and it will be paid for by my family.
But she also wanted him to put her name on the houses he has
Because then her family would
already.
also pay for his house as well, I think is what she's trying to
I
sell.
don't know that I remember that part, but like regardless, it felt really weird and like
Oh yeah, it was super
I would
weird.
think that would be a sketchy red flag that
Oh,
hopefully someone
absolutely
would
it would be,
notice.
but I'm just trying to sell what the logic was. It doesn't really add up. Like I don't know how much like what did she tell Bob compared to what did she tell Jonathan? Because it wouldn't really make sense with what she told Jonathan, right?
Right, about the how she's estranged and doesn't have like
Yeah, like her bank accounts are frozen. Like it wouldn't make any sense this con on Bob.
probably when she was in jail, she told Bob she was on a vacation and like hadn't told him any of those things, right?
Yeah. So I think yeah, she is kind of changing up her story, but she is doubling down on the Irish inheritance
Mhm.
angle. But she is at least changing the story a little bit.
She'll save the oh no, my cousins are framing me for the next time she has to go to prison for whatever reason.
Yeah. I'm sure she'll use the same trick again. Yeah. But meanwhile, Jonathan is still investigating
Yes.
and he is going to look back into Mare's dead daughter who died from cystic fibrosis. And he recalls stories when he would talk to Mare about her daughter, like how it's like she had ashes like on her mantle at her house,
Mhm.
and she would like weep for her daughter every anniversary of her death.
Yes.
And this is where we find out that the GoFundMe page raised $17,000. But Jonathan,
He calls the Association for Cystic Fibrosis Research or wherever she was meant to donate this money and asks if they had ever received this amount from her. And nope, surprise, she did not donate that money.
yeah, and all these different friends that we got introduced in the beginning, I actually don't think like they're that close with each other. Like
Mm-hmm.
Jonathan talks about Michelle later, like, oh, he met her once at a party, and I think it's similar to Fran, but
Yeah.
he knew, I guess, that Fran had donated to this GoFundMe, so he had to like call her and give her the news, and so we get Fran's being devastated
Right.
interview basically, and then Jonathan has a crazy idea. He's like, wait, does Mare even have a daughter? Like, I thought that was like weird that
Mm-hmm.
he's still like, I guess, yeah, I guess if you were just like friends with somebody so long, like you just associate them with like facts about them, and
Mm-hmm.
it wouldn't immediately assume like everything was a lie, and you're slowly like peeling back the layers, and it took him a
Right.
while to be like, oh, maybe his daughter isn't even real.
Yeah. Yeah. He's just like questioning everything about her at this point.
Yeah.
But then he remembers suddenly, I guess, that he has a box
Yeah,
that
this
she
was
left
weird
with
too.
him.
Everything's weird about this.
This is so weird. Um, she left a box with him when she went to jail. And in the box, there was the social security number and banking documents of her other friend, Michelle. And then we find out that Michelle had somebody take out credit cards in her name. And she couldn't confirm that it was Mare, but Mare had all this information and banking documents. So it seems pretty reasonable that Mare had done that.
Yeah. And when she reported to the police, I think Michelle actually says that she told the police that Mare would be a suspect, a potential
Mm-hmm.
suspect. But yeah, but when Mare gave Jonathan this box before she went to jail, she told him like, guard this with your life. So Sarah, if I gave you a box
Uh huh.
and said, guard this with your life,
I would be like, "What's in the box?"
how long would it take you to open that box? Because they made it look like it was just like like a filing box, like it wasn't like a lock box or something like that.
Yeah, if you're just like, "Hold on to these documents for me," I'd be like, "Okay, I don't give a fuck. Like, what's in here?
Yeah.
Sure." But if you are sketchy about it, I mean, like 2 or 3 days maybe, and then I need to know what was in the box.
Now I feel like Jonathan could have looked in this box and been like, oh, it's just like paperwork. It's just like
Yeah.
Mare's information or something like personal information, and then not look deeper So he may
Mm-hmm.
have looked in the box. I don't necessarily blame Jonathan for not like looking through all her personal items and
Yeah.
seeing that it's like, oh, social security numbers for not her and stuff like that. So yeah, I think this one could have gotten past me. I wouldn't have.
Well, okay. So yeah, if I gave you a box, you wouldn't look in it?
No, I don't think so. I might open it, but I'm not gonna like, really go through it.
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm gonna keep something in my house, I want to know that it's like, not necessarily dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
Although this is totally like the start of like like a movie where like an innocent person gets wrapped up into some
Mm-hmm.
criminal activity because they
Yep.
just like have a box of sensitive information or something. Yeah. It would be weird, but I probably wouldn't bother go looking through it. I certainly wouldn't like die for this box though. That's not
Oh,
happening. I
no.
would just be like, yeah, sure, and just like put it in a closet. But that would be the extent of me guarding it with my life.
Yeah, if you play up the box, I gotta see what's in the box. But
Okay.
if it's nothing, you're just
But if
like,
you open it up and it's just like files, are you gonna go through the files?
well, now I'm like, why were you so suspicious about it? Like, just like it's all in how you play off this box,
Yeah,
really.
guard this with my life is a little like crazy. But if
Too
if I was
much.
just like, hey, can you hold on to this while I'm gonna be away for a while?
Oh yeah, then that's no big deal. Yeah, I
Yeah.
wouldn't look in the box then. It's
It's
whatever.
still weird though. It is still weird. It's like why
Yeah.
keep it at your house? I guess you could just say it's like, oh, it's something that I just don't want to leave in an empty house. I
Mm,
guess is the way you would sell it.
yeah.
Let's keep going.
Mm-hmm.
It keeps getting weirder. So so we got back to Bob, and Bob is telling us about how at some point Mare insisted that they should have dinner with Bob's ex-wife. I don't know why this is a move. Maybe he's like
Yeah.
maybe she had an idea to like con the ex-wife. I'm not sure.
Well,
But
like, okay, if you're in a relationship with somebody who has kids with someone else, like at some point you got to meet them, I guess,
I
right?
guess maybe
Like,
this is like a genuine like, oh, this is something we should do. Like it wasn't even part
yeah,
of anything. But this is the first domino that's not going to
yeah,
work out
this
for
was a
Mare here
bad move.
because they have dinner with Bob's ex-wife, and Bob's ex-wife does the thing that maybe a lot of people might do when they meet
Everyone
their
would do
their
a
partner's
hundred
new
million percent.
their ex-partner's new partner, and she just like goes online and like looks up information about this
She
woman.
just Googles her, and guess whose blog shows up?
Oh
It's Jonathan's
man,
blog.
yeah. And then we cut to commercial. That was a great commercial. This was a great commercial. But yeah, so Bob's ex-wife is going to call Bob the next day, and then they made it look like she like faxed the blog to him. I think she just like printed it out and like took it over or something.
Yeah, I think they met up, and she was just like, "You have to look at this," and it's the
Yeah,
very first blog post that's like, "If you know this guy, he's getting scammed."
yeah. Now, Sarah, if you're Bob here though,
Mm-hmm.
depending on the relationship you have with your ex-partner,
Yeah.
wouldn't you be inclined to maybe not believe the ex-partner here?
Well, it sounds like they maybe have an okay relationship. Like the fact that they were able to all get together for dinner previously, and the fact that she just came to him like she was able to call and be like, "Let's meet up. I need to talk." Like it seems like they're chill. I'm still gonna follow up with my own googling to verify that this isn't just something they printed, like photoshopped and printed out. I mean they could
Yeah,
be behind the blog as well, but like I'm gonna fact check on my own.
yeah. It would have been hard to make the entire blog overnight,
Yeah, that is
unless she
true.
like knew about her earlier and it was like a long. She was doing
Yeah, yeah,
her own
definitely.
love con.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Bob. I would think there would be some hesitation on believing your ex partner, but Bob made it seem like, oh, he like instantly basically believed his
Mm-hmm.
ex-wife and almost immediately went and like confronted Mare about the blog. And Mare's just like, I can't believe you would believe them over me. And then she just walks out of the house and leaves forever.
Yep, he never sees her again.
That's the
Like
move.
that's her
Oh,
move.
that's crazy. I got, I'm out.
Yeah, not even gonna bother coming up with an excuse.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
She at least tried to get sympathy at the very like on the way out when she was like, I can't
Mm-hmm.
believe you believe them over me. But yeah, but then after this, like Jonathan's blog starts getting like more and more hits, and this is when it gets crazy.
Yeah, other people who she've scammed have started contacting him, and they're like, sharing information, and then he has a revelation that he finds out that she's not Irish, she's American. And I'm like, I could have told you that she does not have an Irish accent.
But he's getting stories from people turning up everywhere. He's got their stories from California, Florida, Michigan, Maine, New York. She's been all over the country, Sarah.
She stormed out of a lot of buildings across the country after being found out.
Now Jonathan is obsessed with this now. He's like, so like, I guess this would be very like, okay, this became like a vendetta. This was a vendetta, but now this is just like the most interesting thing I could possibly be working on in my life.
Yeah.
Like,
yes, definitely.
This is
my
crazy.
new hobby is like figuring out this person who scammed me.
Yeah. So he's going to talk about how he's going. He says, I went from like courthouse to read records about all these incidences with this woman. Yeah, turns out she's not Irish.
Surprise.
And then this is weird. He's gonna find out. I'll say this first. He's gonna find out like, oh, she had like a bunch of different names.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote some of them down. Like across the country, she was known as like Marianne Welch, Marianne Smith, Marianne Andel, Mayor Ellis, Mayor Clark. So she had like 5 different names that she took.
Yes.
Over the course of her cons, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But then they cut over to Jonathan. One time, like, Mare gave Jonathan her email password.
And he just now remembered
it.
Yeah,
he just now remembered it. I wrote, what? In my notes, like, this is weird. I don't know.
Yes. But surely she must have changed her password after, right?
No, she did not. This is so weird to me. Like, yeah, maybe he just forgot that he knew the password at some point. Or,
yeah.
I don't know. It almost seemed like maybe they were like, the show was giving Jonathan credit for something that he didn't actually hack her email, but they wanted to, like, make Jonathan look like incredible in this story. I don't know. It seemed really weird.
Or maybe he found it out at a different point, and this is just how the story has been. Like, maybe he remembered it pretty early on, and they just put it here.
Yeah, maybe this him using the email was like too much to reveal, so they saved it for later in the show. Yeah, that's probably it.
But I will say that she's dumb for not changing her password or like her name and moving away,
or
earlier,
just giving her password out at any point. Like,
yeah.
So what we're gonna find in these emails is that, like, she basically faked all these emails that she was showing to Jonathan from her family back in Ireland. Yes, and the text.
There is no Fintan.
There was no Fintan. This screams Jonathan.
And she's not an heiress. Like, it shouldn't have taken him this long to figure out that was true. So I think, like, this happened much earlier on in real life, and this is just the point they put in the story for a dramatic reveal.
Yeah, for me, like, the reason I kind of like this show to some degree is that, like, there's some level of impressiveness to the people that are doing these cons, as terrible as they are.
Yeah.
But, like, this is just so weird and like really bad. Like, if you had if what was in your email, and maybe they were somehow hidden within her emails in a way that she wasn't worried about it, but, like, if in your email is all the like would give away all the information for the con you're pulling on somebody, why are you giving them your password to your email?
Ooh, or maybe she had a separate email account for Fintan, and he's like, I wonder if it's the same password, and she just reused her password.
Maybe. I don't know. I wish they'd explained it better. There was some gap in the logic here that didn't make sense to me.
But the moral of the story is, if you're going to scam people, don't give them the password to your email. And change your email password regularly, and also change your name and move away. Like, I think she messed up on a lot of fronts right here. You gotta know when you've pissed somebody off enough that they're gonna, like, spend their whole time hunting you down on the internet.
Yeah, I think there's just some, like, at some point, like, if you do this long enough, you just realize that, like, hey, nobody ever, like, I don't know how many people she scammed in a similar way that she scammed Jonathan. But she probably has never been caught for it.
Right.
So maybe it's just overconfidence. Like, she got caught for what she did to the PacificIslands.com.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe that was like a new one that she was trying and it just didn't work out.
Yeah.
But even in the end of that, like she only got 30 days prison, and she was able to con like somebody. She used the punishment that she got for failing at a con to con somebody else, which is
Yeah.
pretty crazy. But also in these background checks that Jonathan did on all these names that she used,
Mm-hmm.
he did come back with one relative, somebody
Yes.
named Jeff Welch.
Yes. And he messaged him on LinkedIn. And at this point, Whoopi goes, "No, Jonathan, not LinkedIn. No one looks at their LinkedIn account."
Yeah, that was weird. So yeah, so that we don't immediately catch up with Jeff Welch until the end.
Yes.
But yeah, Jonathan has all this new information.
And he keeps going to the police and he's like, "Come on, do something about it." And it seems like that's a long process where they keep ignoring him and he gathers more information and comes back and goes, "Come on."
Yeah.
Until eventually they decide to charge her with grand theft.
It's somewhere between a year to 2 years that Jonathan has been investigating this, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're gonna take her to court. They'd find her pretty easily. Like,
because again, she has not changed her name. She has not left.
yeah, some of these kind of episodes, like somebody will be on the run for years before they find them. But they didn't even talk about how they couldn't find her in this. It was just like, oh, next thing we know, she's showing up at the
right
courthouse.
over there.
Yeah,
yeah, for a preliminary hearing, and she like came in on crutches and looked all kind of disheveled, just like trying to get sympathy from the judge.
Jonathan described her as looking like a homeless woman.
Yes,
that seemed a bit harsh to me, but because they actually had footage of her on the crutches, but
yeah, she just didn't look fancy. She just, I don't know, looked like a normal woman on crutches.
Yeah. But thankfully, the judge that was doing this case would not be fooled by Mayor's act because he's seen it before. I don't know how many judges would be fooled by this, but they made it seem like Jonathan got a little lucky in that respect. But the prosecutor basically tells Jonathan that, like, oh, this case is not like a done deal. Like, it's very complicated and it almost comes down to like a he said, she said kind of thing.
Yeah.
And like it could go either way. So the prosecutor, even though they are taking the case, like they are not necessarily convinced that they're going to win.
Right. And it is a lot of just him being like, well, she asked for money for this and I gave it to her, but that's not what, like, that's not what it was for. So, and then she could just be like, well, he just gave me money for this. It's fine. Like, it is very much just,
yeah.
Who do you decide to trust as a juror on this?
Yeah. So the trial, they say, begins in January 2019. So this is like 4.5 years, something like that. That's from he first met her.
Yeah.
And basically, like, they're trying to, Jonathan and the prosecutor, they're going to try bringing in like as many people as possible that have like fallen for similar cons that Jonathan fell for, just to kind of show that like
this is what she does to people.
Yeah, basically. So what they do is like the only one they show is that they do bring in Bob.
I feel really bad for Bob.
You do?
He seems so sad. Like, and she like wouldn't even look at him in court. Like, this is the first time he's seen her since she just stormed out. And like she was important to him. Like she was close with his kids. Like, it's got to be like really rough. And she just like he said she was just looking straight ahead and would not look at him while he was on the stand. And he just seemed sad. And I felt bad for him.
I actually felt like I guess I've watched more of these episodes, but I felt like Bob was one of the more like happier people that are on this show because he actually in the end like didn't actually get conned or fall for a con. That's true. Because they never explain what happened with the houses. Like I don't know if he never signed them or he did, but it didn't, like he was able to deal with it in a way like quickly where it didn't matter. But yeah, so Bob's gonna just come in and basically he just talks about how she talked about how she had an Irish inheritance and all this stuff, even though it wasn't the exact same information that was told to Jonathan. Now you would think though, Sarah, like if somebody tells you like they are Irish royalty, and you have evidence, like hard evidence that they are not Irish royalty. And that's what they told you to get your money, you would think that would be an open and shut case. Like I don't know.
You think.
I don't know how much they're kind of like kind of like the rest of this episode is kind of like the trial process
Mm-hmm.
until the very end. But I don't know how much they're like hamming this up a little bit for like the TV show.
Yeah, it seems like it should be pretty
It seems
straightforward
like it should be.
case.
Maybe I'm too optimistic, but
Well, Jonathan does say like it only takes one person to be like to have reasonable doubt, and then like she gets off, right? Like, so it is, there's 12 people you got to make sure that are on board with what you're telling them. So it could be nerve-wracking. I get it.
And we're gonna get like live video from the trial actually.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, Jonathan's gonna take the stand, Sarah.
Yes, and he gets a little bit excitable on the stand a bit because he's learned so much about cons.
You're like building this up for like 2 years, and you're finally getting a chance to express yourself in an arena that it'll actually matter.
Yes.
Yeah, so he's so excited that like he starts like they showed an example. I didn't write down the example, but he was almost like he was just trying to answer a simple question, but then he like took it further and like talked about how, oh, what she did to me was like I found out later was like con artist 101 or something like that.
Yes.
And the judge is like, please strike that from the record. Like he was, he answered to he was I don't know the legal terminology for that, but he was like inferring information that may or may not be true. Yeah.
And then he was like, oh, sorry.
Or like he's not a con artist expert to be able to giving that information for the jury.
Mm-hmm. But he got to say all of his stuff, and then at the end she actually got found guilty. So that's pretty good.
Gotta feel good.
Yeah, and he actually got to speak again at her sentencing to just like advocate for her getting the max sentence, because he's like, as soon as she gets out, she's gonna do this to other people again.
Yeah, and he gives a speech. He talks about how like, oh, I had to file for bankruptcy, and this financially ruined me, and like him and his husband were planning on like adopting a kid, but now they couldn't because they didn't have the money for it anymore. So like he really tries to get like as much sympathy as possible before her sentencing.
Yes.
I don't know if it had an effect or not, but she does get the max sentence.
But it's only 5 years, which is like, what? Okay. So she's definitely going to get out and scam some people.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like a lot, but I think we have to remember that this is only like one incident.
That's true. It's not for her entire history of scamming people. Yeah. It's just for scamming him.
I think she would get, like, say she went to trial for everybody she's ever scammed and got 5 years. Like, I'm pretty sure it just, like, adds on, right? So she would essentially get, like, a life sentence or, like, 200 years or something like that. Insane.
But she also had to pay him $60,000 in restitution. So he should get some money back, theoretically.
Yeah, so he only got 60,000 despite saying it was 70,000 earlier. And then in his speech to the judge before the sentencing, he says he scammed her for nearly $100,000. So
yeah, it depends on I think like he's just like, well, yeah, 70,000 is very nearly 100,000. Like he's just trying to make it sound worse to like really push for the max sentencing.
But that line combined with like some of the other stuff he was saying, like financially ruined me and all like talking about how he couldn't adopt a kid anymore. I don't know. I
would say that that's probably true. If he did like have to declare bankruptcy, like I don't think like any agency would like allow him to like adopt a kid. Like that stuff's really strict and difficult to navigate.
That's true, yeah. And the bankruptcy, I was thinking like, anything he says in this speech before the sentencing like has no legal ramifications, right? So he can kind of like ham it up as much as he wants. But I guess like filing for bankruptcy would be like that would be on file.
Yeah. But also he's hamming it up for like a judge who like knows the case and knows all the like evidence brought up. So like because the judge is doing the sentencing. So like it's kind of at a certain point like showing up on crutches and trying to get sympathy. Like the judge has seen shit like this and should have a reasonable response.
Yeah, I was just gonna bring up like, maybe he's doing a little bit of like trying to con the con artist here. Like he's hamming it up a little bit
Mm-hmm.
just to make sure she gets the max sentence, which
She
is
did.
totally something that like
Yeah,
anybody would do in this situation.
absolutely.
Yeah.
But ultimately, like, she never took the stand during this trial. And so he wasn't
Yeah.
really able to get closure. And he's still, like, big sad about this whole thing.
Yeah. I feel him on that. I just watched,
Yeah.
this show for 45 minutes and I feel like I don't have closure either because I really like I wish there was somebody on this show that was like a con artist psychologist who could
Mm.
like explain to us like, oh, how could this person have gotten to the point in their life that they decided this is what I'm going to do, you know?
I just imagine it's she wants money, feels entitled to money, and this is gonna take money. Like she's good with people and able to like talk them into things, so that's the way she's gonna do it.
Yeah, but there's so many good like other alternatives to use that skill. I don't know. Let's wait till we get to the end and then we can do some more amateur psychology discussion.
Okay.
Yeah. Where are we, Sarah?
Midland, Michigan. And this is where I guess Jeff Welch did eventually check his LinkedIn account. He is her ex husband. They got married kind of young and had a baby right away. But she did not apparently seem interested in being a mom or a wife, at least according to Jeff.
Yeah, he describes it as like, everything was normal, like when they dated, they got married, they got pregnant, and everything seemed normal to him.
Mm-hmm.
And then he made it seem that like almost instantly after the baby was born, he started noticing that like she wasn't that interested in being a mom.
Yeah, this sounds like postpartum depression or something, that like was undiagnosed or unworried about,
Yeah.
like that's what it sounds like to me. People don't talk about that enough, but like
Yeah, it is a
it's not all
thing.
sunshine and rainbows after you have a baby.
Yeah.
Some folks
I
have a
feel
real
like
rough time.
they never say postpartum depression here though. So they're trying to I don't think the show was trying to say it was that, but it certainly could be a factor.
Hmm.
So the daughter is actually real.
Yes.
Is a revelation that Jonathan had.
Yes. And she did actually have cystic fibrosis.
Yeah. And I think they say that the daughter was diagnosed at like 4 months old.
Yeah, it was pretty early. But like I guess Jeff and there split pretty early because she had minimal interaction with her daughter's life. Like she didn't raise her. Jeff raised her.
Yeah, they kind of yada yada over like the whole thing. This is where I kind of wish there was like some sort of psychologist
Mm-hmm.
to like kind of explain how could you go from like appearing normal to having a kid and then being like distant instantly. But so Jeff Welch is going to get full custody. Like they made it seem like it before the kid was even like 1 year old. Like that's how
Mm-hmm.
fast it was.
Yeah.
And the daughter actually is dead. She did die, but
Yes.
I think she lived to be 25 years old, they said.
I think it was like 23. She
23.
passed in 2012.
And they go back to the GoFundMe page, and the picture that Mary used, this is when it gets kind of like really sick.
Mm-hmm.
Like the picture she used in the GoFundMe page was like an actual picture of her daughter as like a teenager, I want to
Yeah.
say. Even though like she never raised her daughter or had any interaction with her, she somehow like got a picture of her and
Mm-hmm.
put it on this GoFundMe page. And like if the GoFundMe page is a scam, like
It could have been a scam for anything.
you could use anybody's picture.
Anybody's picture. You could have faked a different disease. You could have said it
Yeah.
was a ant, or like it sucks a lot that like she used this actual real sad
Yeah.
event.
And this is where I just really want to know the psychology of this whole like the mindset of this person. But yeah, each victim that we've met, like all our friends and Jonathan, everybody, they're kind of going to go around, get some like final closing words montage.
Mm-hmm.
I only wrote down what Jonathan said because this is kind of how just watching these shows. If you watch too much of them in a row, this is how I
Yeah.
felt. Jonathan was like, I felt like I could no longer trust anyone.
Yeah, I don't blame him. You go through something like that, like I wouldn't trust people either.
Now, if you're being realistic with the situation, it's like, he could trust people until like they ask him for a lot of money and then stop trusting them. Like he doesn't have to, shelter himself from every possible friendship he could have in the
Yeah, he,
future.
he didn't say he wasn't going to make friends. He just said he wasn't going to trust anyone. You can, loosely associate with people and not like rely on them or give them any money.
Yeah. And I'll say this about Jonathan. Even after watching this episode, I got the sense that, Jonathan's okay.
Yeah.
But actually, later on in like a season 2 episode, there's one woman that's not in this episode for some reason, but she's in a lot of the episodes where she's just like a podcaster or something. But then she's
Okay.
also a contributor to like ABC News. They like change her title a few times, but she gets to have like confessionals talking about the case in these
Mm,
episodes. And
okay.
they like refer to her as like the scam goddess or something like that. That's like her moniker on the podcast.
Okay.
So they bring her in, but then later in season 2, they not only have her, but in this one episode I watched, they actually bring back Jonathan
Really?
because like he also has a podcast about con artists
Oh,
now. So Jonathan is actually in
interesting.
another episode of the show as like a person doing analysis on the case for the episode.
It really did become his entire hobby after he got
Yeah.
scammed.
I think Jonathan is a pretty good like TV personality. Like the way he tells his
Oh,
own
yeah.
story throughout all this,
It's
he's
compelling.
able to express the emotion that he felt in the moment very well.
Yes, definitely.
But yeah, that's enough. Well, that's the end of the show basically. Everybody
Yep.
gets their final say. Do you have any closing thoughts, Sarah, on the
Um,
episode, on Mayor Smith, on
I
whatever?
mean, I do just have to say again that that was not an Irish accent.
Okay.
She did a bad job of pretending to be Irish, and everyone else did a bad job of not realizing that that was not an Irish accent. But yeah, I really like the show. I like true crime stuff. I'm gonna watch some more of these cons probably. I might not roll all the way through them. I might cherry pick the ones that seem interesting and intersperse with some episodes of Ted Lasso to make me feel like humanity's worth something again.
Watch a positive show every once in a while. If
Whatever
you
your
actually try
warm, fuzzy
if you're trying to
comfort
watch
show
all these,
is.
don't binge it.
Yeah, not going to be good for your mental health.
And even though we talked about episode 2, go watch episode 1. I think it's a really interesting story. I just thought it was like a weird for us to talk about. I don't know.
Yeah,
It's a
I
super
get it.
interesting story. And again, it's another like I really wish like we could get some sort of like psychological analysis on the
Mm,
person that's doing this.
yeah.
But I have some amateur psychology
Okay,
that we can talk
let's hear it.
about for Mayor
Let's
Smith.
armchair psychologist this
So
thing.
like we talk about how Mayor Smith's like con is kind of like she casts a big net, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and then she just waits for people to bite. And I again, like I said before, like I kind of find like the charisma of con artists to be impressive.
Yeah.
And like it's like they're being con artists, but like they're actually really good at something that they could use for good, I feel like.
Yeah, but they want to get a bunch of money without a lot of effort.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of effort to me, but maybe it just comes easy to them. I don't know.
Yeah.
But do you think like Mare actually, liked Jonathan and became friends with him kind of naturally in a way? Like, and they actually had like a real connection outside of the fake stuff she was saying?
Um, I think probably to a certain extent, but not enough that she wasn't going to use him. I feel like she goes like she gets described as like liking to meet a lot of people and talk to a lot of people, and so she's probably an outgoing personality and like feeds off of people's energy and enjoys probably also their admiration. She's got this crazy
Yeah.
story and she feeds off of that. And she might care about people on like a surface level, but like they're all interchangeable. She'll just find somebody else to like tell about her grandma teaching her how to throw Molotov cocktails and watch them all be fascinated with her too. So I don't think like she's forming any like real deep lasting connections with anybody, but there is some level of friendship.
Yeah, like she's definitely gotten to the point in her life where like the con that she's pulling is more important than any friendship she's ever going to make.
Mhm.
But I was thinking about, would Mayor Smith be really good on Survivor? Like that's kind of like what I was thinking.
Okay.
And I think these kind of people that are like kind of on artisty, I think
Mhm.
they are good at Survivor in a sense that they are able to trick people and get to the end. But I think because Survivor has the whole like the people you vote out and betray have to vote for you to win the game in the end, they oftentimes will not
Yeah.
win in the end.
So Mary would probably get like second place or something,
Yeah,
right?
and that's I think that's like kind of where Mare Smith would be, where she doesn't really have a backup plan after people like find out that she's screwed them over basically.
Oh yeah, she does not make a graceful exit.
The con becomes before any friendships, and that's kind of like
Hmm.
the mentality that like somebody would have on like Survivor. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna make friends with people, and they do generally make friends with people, but like they've already decided before they've gone on the show that they're going to do whatever it takes to win. So they betray like the people that they actually make friends with. And that's
Yeah.
kind of how I feel like Mare's cons worked. Like she wasn't really targeting specific people, and she did enjoy being charismatic and making friends. And then maybe she probably did hang out with Jonathan more once he like took the bait, you know.
Mm.
But I don't know. It's interesting. The psychology
Yeah.
of it is interesting.
The difference being though that like this is then how she has to live her whole life, whereas survivor people can go home and have normal relationships again.
Yeah, yeah. This is like literally like she's playing Survivor, but in real life. Like it's just like,
Hmm.
oh, like life is a game, and I'm just beating people at it. Basically, is like the
Yeah.
mindset, as opposed to like here's an agreed 39 days of playing a game together where we've agreed that we're going to lie to each other.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really wish like there was somebody to explain like, oh, this is what happened to her, because it's almost, and this is what I'll say about like her like kind of like not taking another alias and leaving LA, and then like she shared her email with Jonathan at one point. It almost made it seem to me like she had almost had enough at some point, and she was like not trying as hard, and maybe like I don't know, was
Oh,
just gonna get
maybe.
caught. But she doesn't plead guilty in the end. She like goes through
Yeah.
the process of the trial, so that's a little different. There's like another episode where it might have been like a Ponzi scheme or something that this guy pulled,
Hmm.
and he was basically able to like elude the law for but forever by just running. But then eventually he's like caught, and then he's just like admits everything. Like he doesn't try to yeah.
Yeah.
And like and then he even describes like, oh, when I was caught, I was kind of like a sense of relief, like, you know, like maybe he like kind of gave up on trying to hide as much because
Mm.
he was just like, I can't do it anymore. So I don't know if that was like maybe Mare was on like the early stages of that, where
Maybe.
like she was getting a little lazy with some of the things she was doing, or the show just did some funky things that didn't really make sense. I'm not
Yeah.
sure.
And we don't know like how competent her scams were earlier. You know, when she was those five other people or whatever that Jonathan found aliases for. Like maybe she's been this sloppy the whole time and just there wasn't a Jonathan to catch her.
Yeah, they don't give like a grand total of like how much money she conned people for. They do that in a lot of the other episodes.
Hmm.
I almost feel like she was doing like minor stuff, and then Jonathan and this Pacific Islands
Hmm.
company like might have been like two of like the bigger things that she tried.
Yeah.
Really, what you need to do is like you need to scam people where like $50,000 isn't going to destroy their lives. That's like really the move.
Yeah. And they're not going to get like super prideful about it. Like, how dare you scam me? You know, like it's just
Yeah,
going to be the people who would be too embarrassed to make a big fuss about it. And it's not enough money to ruin their lives.
yeah. And that's all like some of the later episodes that where they talk about like Ponzi schemes that brought in like hundreds of millions of dollars, like really
Hmm.
insane stuff. It's because like they're getting investors that have so much money that like they almost like don't even care.
Yeah.
Like they're not going to call out the person or look into the accuracy of their records and stuff, because it's like it's not, even though they're giving them millions of dollars, it's not a big deal to them. So that's like Mare wasn't that calculated, I think. Unfortunately, like I really don't think Mare targeted Jonathan in this case.
Yeah.
It just kind of naturally happened, and then once
Hmm.
she gets somebody, she just that's when the con takes over.
Yeah.
But yeah, do you have anything else, Sarah?
I do not.
All right, I'm glad you liked the show.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I'm curious if people like this as a podcast. Like you were saying, there are a lot of true crime podcasts out there. I've never listened to them, so I don't feel like we did like the format of those shows at all, because we just did our normal like recap-y.
Yeah, but
format.
I think it was good.
Let us know if you liked it.
Are you prepared to become a true crime podcast if that's what our listeners like? I don't think that that's mostly your vibe.
I would love to like listen to these stories and then talk about them, but doing the research myself, no, I'm not going to be doing it. So, Sarah, what do you want to talk about next time on the podcast?
I want to talk about a show on Apple TV Plus called The After Party. It is a murder mystery, but it's pretty funny. It has oh no, I've forgotten her name. Tiffany Haddish. She's
Tiffany
in
Haddish,
it.
yeah.
Jean-Ralphio from 30 Rock, he's in it. Being
Yeah.
very Jean-Ralphio, but maybe more tolerable. And other people are in it too, and it's pretty interesting because kind of not every episode, but a lot of the episodes are like you see the same night from different perspectives, and I think by the end of it, if you're paying attention, you could probably figure it out who did it. It's a good whodunit show.
Okay.
So yeah,
I remember seeing commercials for this now that I'm looking it up.
I think probably cursing myself by saying this, but crossing fingers, I think I might have picked a show you're actually gonna like.
Yeah, I think I saw an ad for this and was like, oh, this looks interesting, and then it was like, oh, it's on Apple TV Plus. And then like never thought to look into it. But yeah, its main category is listed as comedy, crime, mystery. So hopefully it highlights the comedy.
I think at least the first episode you will enjoy.
The first episode, okay. Right.
Do you have a question for the people?
I don't. Do
oh,
you?
No.
A Twitter question?
A Twitter question.
What can we come up with for a Twitter question?
We could ask people if they've ever been scammed.
Yeah, but it's not a poll though.
I mean, I can make it yes or no.
Oh, yes or no.
Have you ever been scammed?
I know the answer to that is yes. Right? Like if anybody is saying no,
they've never been scammed ever?
Yeah, I don't think that's that interesting. I want to know, like, hearing how people got scammed could be interesting, but that's open-ended. Man, I don't know.
I don't know either.
I think we're only at the level of being able to like ask people to click a button on a Twitter poll. We're not ready. we're not at the level of hey, here's an open-ended question.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. There's not a good like fun question from this. We could ask like, oh, your best friend needs to borrow $50,000 to pay for legal fees, or like,
do you give it to them, or like how
friend
much money would you give them?
How much money would them? 50,000 plus or less than $50,000? I don't know.
We could do that. Yeah.
Just a two-part question.
Or we could just put different intervals.
You could put different intervals, yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I'm gonna say? I'm just gonna say we are gonna post a Twitter question for this podcast when the episode drops. We don't know exactly what it's gonna be right now, but keep an eye out for it. It'll be something about how much money would you be willing to help your friends out with if they needed help with legal situations.
At what point would it be suspicious?
Yeah, that's what we'll do.
Cool.
Okay. Sarah, where can people contact us and find us?
People can email us at keepwatchingpod@gmail.com. You can find us on Twitter at keepwatchingpod or Instagram at keepwatchingpod. Then there's also our YouTube channel, which is Keep Watching Pod. And if you are enjoying the podcast, go ahead and leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify.
Awesome. Thanks for listening, everybody. Bye.
Bye.